afternoon. And finally, good looking River Severn that's dropped down to a perfect level and the temperatures have started to come up. First day in quite a while where we haven't had a frost the night before. So I've decided I couldn't resist coming out and having a few hours chub fishing with big waggler. Chose a stretch of the middle Severn and just above Bridge North here. Stretch I fish quite a lot. And I'm hoping, as I say, to have a really good day. I'll run you through some of the big waggler techniques I'll be using today to catch these, hopefully, big chub. Let's have a look at the tackle for today then. I'm going to be approaching this peg with a big waggler. Now the one I've selected is a tapered waggler. It's one of the designs I used to distribute. That one is 4 SSG. That's a big float. It's quite a long float as well. It's probably nearly, I don't know, 10 or 11 inches long. So that's going to be nice and stable in the water. And I've got it locked up with 2 waggler weights, 2.5 gram waggler weights with a couple of number 8s each side. Now down the line, I put 6 number 6 spaced out just below half depth. And I finished the rig off with an 18-inch hook length, 0.14 diameter line and a size 16 Camasan B510. I'm intending to fish double maggot. I'm going to be running this rig probably 2 to 3 foot over depth to begin with. So the float's actually slightly undershotted to accommodate that. So as I'm running through, I've got enough leeway in the float so I can still see it. It'll slow down, you can see when it's dragging because the float will be running through slightly slower than the surface of the surface pace. But you'll know those shots are dragging on, you'll actually see them registering on the tip of the float. And I'm using 3-pound Maxima main line, which is, I think it's diameter 17. So I'm fishing pretty robust gear. I could hook anything in this peg really today. I could hook some big chub. I probably will hook some big chub, but there'll be possibilities of barbel today because the temperatures come up. So I'm pretty much equipped for those if I do get a barbel bite. That 16 B510's giving me more than a chance of landing it. So I'm going to start off dragging on by, as I say, 2 to 3 foot. But I'm expecting to reduce that as the day goes on. If chubs start feeding and moving up the peg, there's every chance I'll start encountering fish, possibly off bottom. So how I'll do that is I'll take some depth off. So at the moment I'm fishing around about 7 to 8 foot deep. I know the peg's only 5 foot. I'm fishing it 7 to 8 foot. So I'm dragging line on. But how that works, when I stop the float, all of that line flies down in front of the float and the bait lifts. As I hold the float back, the hook bait lifts, and as I let it go, it falls again. That's quite often when you get a bite off a chub. They intercept the maggots just as they're falling through the water in the bottom foot if they're lying close to the bottom. And that's when I expect a bite. When you check the float and let it run, that's more than likely when you're going to get a bite. We'll start off with double bronze maggot, and I'm going to feed around about 40-50 maggots every run through. Not shy to put some bait in. There's going to be some fish today, I think they'll be feeding, so I'm prepared to put a bit of bait in. Now, because the Severn water's quite cold, the maggots I'm using are a couple of weeks old. So they're what I had left over from matches over the last 2 weeks. It's no good using fresh maggots, they stretch and they fold over the hook. So old maggots, 1 to 2 weeks old, are great for fishing this time of year in cold water. That waggler really is running through there nice. There's a real great upstream wind today. It can literally make the float talk. had a few runs through there just to get me my shotting pattern right, to get the rig right, and it's running through absolutely perfectly. If I could mail order a peg, it'd look like this one. All I need now is the fish to start feeding. I do hope they feed. Like I say, it's a noted chub peg. I'd be very surprised if I don't catch, but nothing's guaranteed in fishing. After I've fed, I just pull the waggler into the feed. So my up bait's going down with the loose feed. All the same principles of fishing the stick float. Try and keep your line tight to the float. You can obviously run the float through at the pace of the flow, because I've got a line there a couple of foot on the bottom. If I want to check the float and hold it back, I just put the finger on the spool like that, and I know that hook length flies in front of the float and begins to lift. Then when I let the float go, when I take my finger off there, the hook bait drops. And that shot under there may have been a bite. One of the maggots has gone. That may have been a bite then. I hope so. Sun's just starting to come out, which is nice. It's going to be a nice afternoon. It's going through quite quickly. So I've got number 6 down the line, which is quite a lot for a waggler really. Normally I'd have 8s and 9s. I've shotted that really positively. Big strong catapult today. This is one of the extra power Guru ones. Quite good. You certainly blast these maggots into the middle of the river today. It's the exact line I want to fish. Sometimes I'll do that. Instead of feeding 15 one go, I'll feed 2 lots of 25, so they go down in 2 lots, creating more of a tunnel of feed, more of a constant tunnel of bait. Went under them, but I think it's dragging. This is a gravel bottom here, this peg, and it's fine gravel. It's not very often the float really does rub under, even with 3 foot on. 4 or 5 foot of line on the bottom here, and the float wouldn't rub under. I'm waggler fish for Severn since the summer. How bad it's been this winter for rain. It's been terrible. It's rained solid really from October through till now. It's starting to get it right, like it always comes right. Severn always comes right just at the end of the season. Gets you all interested, you want to come out and fish. Perfect day for fishing today. I used to just run the float around where you're feeding. So on the inside edge of it, down the middle of it, and then on the far side of it. So where you've got your feet going down the middle of the river, you can exploit 3 lines off that. Sometimes, you know, you'll put your waggler right across the feed, pull it into it, and that's the best way and the most efficient way of fishing it. But when you're looking for a few bites, you have to search around the area. The chub can sometimes be inside it or behind it. Feeling reasonably heavy at the moment, but what I will do is I'll slow that down at some point. I'll feed a little bit less, the fish could be right down the bottom of the peg. If they're not competing, they've got no reason to move up. There we are. First fish. It's in an 014 bottom, so it's my favourite fluorocarbon, so it's really strong, that. Landed all sorts of fish on the 012, so I'm confident the 014 is actually a little bit thick. I think it's 014.7. It's proper thick. That's the first fish I've had on the float on the Severn in absolutely ages. Nice chub. £2. No bait inside it. So I think I'm probably going to have some more. Well, well, well. There's chub number 3. Hooked right in the lip. 3 couple of pound fish. Fish was barely hooked. The one previous pulled off. And, that one was barely hooked, so they're not feeding like mad, but there are fish here. Another couple there. That would be a nice finish if I could get a couple more. Oh, it's been quite tough so far. I've had another chub which I didn't get on camera unfortunately, but I've switched to a big stick. I've just had a feeling I need to slow the bait down a bit. So I've actually put the same rig on as I was using at Marcliffe the other day, which is the big stick shotted out with 4s and 6s, and that got me a bite straight away. Sometimes it pays to do that. Obviously in a match I'd have 3 or 4 rods set up. Good God. That's a big dog. £2 or £3 this one. Got quick under the rod tip here. A bit of flow inside. £2 or £3 fish. Little bit of bait in that one, and again it's just right in the lip. It's not, I lost it, but it's well hooked. See if we can get another one. Well, today's session's drawing to a close. I've ended up with 7 chub. Most successful method's probably been the stick float. Although I've hooked more fish on the waggler, I've had 3 of those pull off, which is annoying. but I don't think they've been feeding properly today. Every fish I've hooked has been really up lightly, either right in front of the lip there or just outside, so they're really not feeding properly. But I've had some sport, probably had a dozen bites, 7 fish. That's a lot better than the river has been fishing lately, so I'm quite happy with that. It's been a good little session. I've only fished 3 hours, very enjoyable. And catch you on the next one.